Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Batwoman. A great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up in the aftermath of last episode, and you have Black Mask making his declaration to Gotham, basically inspiring people to wear their mask and be their own vigilantes, basically tear down the system of like the GCPD and the government. And it's interesting too because his plan is to like basically do all this stuff as Black Mask and then pop up as Roman Sionis and put a bullet in Black Mask's head. And it's like, oh, now I will be, and as Cersei says, oh, they're White Knight. Fitting name considering, like, right, you're dealing with the Dark Knight and everything with Batman and stuff, well, the Bat family in general, but, you know, it's interesting to know that's kind of his ultimate, I wonder, I guess that was, like, always the plan, using your one identity to boost the other. That's interesting. And he's also like, right, whoever I end up paying to put on a mask that I end up putting a bullet in. Poor sacrificial lambs. I even love that whole thing of like, now Batman, that's a classic hero. Good voice, no shame, yada, yada, yada. But he called Batman out by being like, oh, look at all these trophies from all the villains he took down. And, you know, kind of saying that it's kind of all about feeling powerful and stuff. I actually did really like Cersei's get-up, like the whole, like, Black Mask thing with, like, the whole, like, it was, I don't know what, I was about to say, it was almost Deathstroke inspired. It kind of reminded me of that, especially with, like, it felt kind of like I hunt bat people, in the sense that, like, we got the Batwoman emblem and it's slashed like that, it feels like kind of like, oh, like, I kill the Bat family or something like that. Maybe that specific get up. Maybe it's modified. I don't know if that's something specific from the comics or not. But it just said it like I said, it just reminded me in this universe. It just reminded me of like a little Deathstrokey in a certain vibe. I should also point out something. I've been meaning to bring this up, and I finally looked into it because it was on my mind. The actress who plays Cersei/Kate, I think her name, from what I was looking at, I believe it's Wallace Day, if I'm not mistaken. I think the way her name was spelled out, I think it's Wallace. I could be wrong. I kept wondering for a while, is that who I think it is? And I finally looked it up. Yes, it's the actress who played Nyssa in Krypton. I was like, oh, that's super dope. It's funny, like, oh, you're playing Cersei/Kate Kane, Kate being the cousin of Batman, and they're like, oh, you played, spoilers, in Krypton, the grandmother of Superman. So I thought that's so interesting. So it's like, doubling up. Granted, this is an Arrowverse, Krypton's kind of its own continuity, but it's still just neat to know, like, doubling down. I like when stuff like that happens. Like, you know, a great example would be like, oh, Chris Evans went from being the Human Torch to later on being Captain America. That type of thing. Like, I always think it's so interesting. I mean, I guess the appropriate DC thing would be like Brendan Routh as Superman in Superman Returns, and obviously got to reprise that role during Crisis, but being Adam, Ray Palmer / Adam in Arrow / Legends, you know, so stuff like that's pretty dope. Just but I was like, yeah, I've been wondering for a while if that was her, and it totally is. But nevertheless, I think this was kind of an important day for Ryan, because Ryan was already feeling shaky about being Batwoman last episode, and it just went even more now because, like, she feels like, I don't even have the bat suit. How can I be Batwoman without the bat suit? Like, she was having no confidence in herself because she felt like Batwoman is what made her being Batwoman is what made her a hero. Without that suit, she doesn't feel like Batwoman. So she was writing a message to the city that she felt like she couldn't be the one to save it. But ultimately, that message gets out and played to Gotham, and for them, it's like, for her saying, like, basically it's up to Gotham to kind of find their own courage. And a lot of people did, and they showed that they're going to reject what Black Mask want by lighting candles in a Black Mask and putting it out and showing, like, their determination of they're not going to, like, go buck wild like a lot of other people. I mean, it's Gotham, so you're like, a lot of people going crazy. You're like, it's Gotham. Gotham gets the pass on, like, yeah, some people are just looking for an excuse to go a little crazy. Obviously, when they're trying to decide what they're going to do, because they need to find Cersei first before they even worry about trying to, you know, save Kate, but also needed to track down Black Mask, and Alice shows up to help. It's like, right, finding out that Cersei was pretending to be her sister the entire time, so she joins up with Ryan as they, you know, plan to save Kate. And obviously, you know, we kind of hear a little bit about Sophia, about her situation. I'm assuming the way Alice is kind of making it sound like it's basically like, oh, I stuffed her in a car and I sent that car to get basically crushed. So I think that, you know, she wanted Sophia's situation to be painful. Like, that's what she was kind of insinuating. Whether Sophia found a way out of that, I don't know, and I doubt it. I think Sophia's done. But she found a gruesome way to kind of handle that, didn't she? I was actually expecting her just to leave Sophia somewhere and just never... well, it could have just been... Because the fact is, I'm blanking on her exact wording, but it sounded like she was getting a car crushed, but it could have just been like, nah, I stuffed her in the car and put it in like a car dump and just like, yeah... As long as no one finds it, she's going to stay there forever type of thing. But I think she was referencing like it being kind of torn apart. Like I said, I'm remembering her exact words. But so that's that for Sophia. But on their drive there, you know, it's like, oh, like, you know, Alice had opened up about the fact is of like, right, Sophia had taken one person away from her. So for her, it's like no stint at Blackgate will ever equal that. And then Ryan's like, kind of like, almost kind of not, because also like at the same time she's tearing her down, being like, oh, can you really be Batwoman without the suit? She's just basically like, why it stings even more is because it's coming from Alice, but also it stings that much more because that's what she's already thinking and feeling. The problem is like Alice is kind of good at getting in people's heads, kind of playing on their doubts that they themselves have. And so ultimately Alice goes like, my point is, I understand, I know why you hate me. And then Ryan doesn't say anything, just leaves. And Alice is like, I said I'm sorry. She's like, what do you want from me? Like, it's like, I'm not going to give you forgiveness for what you've done. Like, just because all of a sudden you have feelings and you lost someone, that doesn't take away what you did to me and so many other people. I mean, it's not just Ryan, it's also Mary as well. So it's like, don't act like you're like, this should mean like I should ultimately forgive you. And then obviously you have like her, because Alice gets defensive, she immediately throws back at Ryan about the fact is the moment she found out about Ryan, she looked into Ryan, and it's like, yeah, I might have killed your adopted mom, but what about your bio mom? Your first thing you did in this world was kill her, because you want to act like you're a hero, that you're better than me because you're a hero and I'm a villain. It's like, well, what was the first thing you did in this world? And that was kill your mom when you came out of her. And it was like, that was a super low blow. And then like Ryan like slaps her, and it's like, yeah, when this is all said and done, I'm going to do everything I can possibly do to make sure you end up in jail afterwards. And you do see that look of regret on Alice's face, like, I probably shouldn't have gone there. Especially with, you know, mother situation, like, you know what it's like to have a dead mom. And so it's like, I mean, great, your mom's situation was pretty horrible, especially head in the freezer and every fridge/freezer situation. But also at the same time, it's like, like, she recognized she went too far in that. So obviously going toe-to-toe with Cersei, and obviously Alice and Ryan actually being a decent team together, and it's like, right, Alice is like, I'll deal with Black Mask, you out after Kate. It's like, I can't beat Cersei, save my sister, you know? And I love like Roman trying to give her, like, you know, a lesson one-on-one on being a villain. Like, the fact of the matter is, you can't have it both ways. You can't have feelings and also be a villain. You can't know Batwoman's secret identity and never use it. You can't want to kill your sister but then also want to save her. It's like, it doesn't work that way. He's like, yeah, I might be two separate identities, but they're all heading towards the same goal and stuff like that. She's like, you know who was a really good villain? The Joker, and uses the acid from the flower to burn his face and then slams his mask on him and it's stuck. I'm like, okay, I think that's typically how it is. I don't think that mask can be taken off. I don't, once again, these are different versions of Black Mask. They're kind of crime bosses, sure, but like they're still very different. Because I don't know if that's typically how the whole thing works. Like, he can't take the mask off in most continuities. I don't know. Like, yep, now you're kind of stuck with the Black Mask thing. So that's interesting. I wonder, what does that mean? Does they just kind of expose him as like, right, also you're Black Mask, but he's also Roman Sionis? Or just does Roman Sionis die and just Black Mask forever exist? I don't know. I'm sure that's going to drive you insane. Like, right, you're forever stuck as your alter ego, your villain persona. I'm like, yeah. So, could we see him later on at the end, kind of like just screaming and trying to get his mask off? But at the same time, well, earlier with the whole Tavaroff thing, because his whole plan was to basically make a army, like Tavaroff be the test subject of like using the venom, but combining it with like vapors from the snake bite to counter out. He's like, right, everyone wants like a hulking army like that, just no one wants to deal with Bane's anger issues, which immediately makes me it makes me laugh a little bit because I'm thinking about Bane from the Harley Quinn show. That's the first Bane that came to my mind when he said that statement. Is like, it made me laugh a little bit to think about. I mean, that Bane could still lose it, but it's just interesting to think about, like the character. I butchered that word, sorry, of Bane in that show, and it makes me laugh thinking about that notion of like, oh, like don't want to have to deal with his anger. Once again, he still has the anger issues, but it's just funny. But it didn't work out the way Roman's like, well, that's why we test stuff on animals. Oh, well, toss him in a dumpster, which he ironically ends up at Mary's place, and Mary ends up having to take care of him. But then she realizes, like, right, because of a combination of all of this, because it's specifically in the form of the vapors, it's like the snake bite keeps you in a perpetual state of those memories forever. Granted, the moment she removed that, all he had was the anger, and he's hulking out right now, so... luckily, Luke shows up in the bat suit, which I brought this up a couple episodes ago. There was something I came across. That was it. It was just like someone had thrown up a picture. It's like one of those channels that like has trailers and stuff like that. No shade to anyone, so that's why I'm not going to mention them, and I'm not trying to throw shade. It's just like it had popped up. I was like, oh, that's cool. Kind of wish I didn't know that. Like, that's the thing I found out about, that Luke was going to suit up. Granted, I think this version, the picture is, like, obviously it's more complete version of it that I'm sure he makes in the next season is, like, I think it has a cape and everything. Once again, I saw the image, like, once a couple weeks ago, so I'm not remembering it clearly. But it's interesting to know where the suit came from. It's like, right, it's something he drew up as a kid. Like, oh, well, you know what, Batman was black. But then it's, because that, obviously it's like, at the time he didn't know. Does make you wonder, I guess maybe he found out Bruce and Batman, the whole situation, the moment, I don't know if his work with Bruce ever coincide with his dad's. I don't know. Maybe that came up in season 1. I don't remember ever saying that. But regardless, Luke found, like, he was looking back at it, and he also finds another one that's a more actual prototype of picture of it. And it's like, his dad got a hold of his drawings and actually wanted to make them a reality. And Luke ultimately finds a suit, which is pretty damn high tech, which is so interesting. But I guess it's like well after the fact. But it's like, oh, well, I guess it depends on the continuity and stuff like that. Because like in Batman v Superman, that hulking suit is a very technical suit. I guess every suit is super technical because there is like a lot of like technology in those suits, like, you know, radars and sensors and stuff like that. So like it you know, but it's just like I feel like this is the most like armored up high tech suit, other than like the suit, like the hulking suit. That's kind of like Batman's equivalency to like the Hulkbuster. I don't know what that suit's known as. He uses it in Batman v Superman, but like obviously like it's existed elsewhere too. But it's like, you know, really quick, I know I'm going on a huge tangent. I didn't know this until like a death battle I watched a while back. Apparently there's a super dangerous suit that is so powerful and so dangerous that Bruce keeps it on the moon. I forgot what the hell it's called, but there's like a damn suit that's like that, which I was like, oh, that's such an interesting thing. It's something from the comics. Like I never knew like Bruce has something like that in his arsenal, but it's so dangerous he keeps it on the moon apparently, or something like that. Once again, I might be remembering. It was from, like I said, it was from a death battle from a long time. It was a while back, and plus it was something I had saw like a couple years ago, I think. Regardless, tangents and all that aside, it just made me think about that with the suit and everything. It is pretty impressive that the suit has boosters, so that's pretty awesome. Sadly, Luke doesn't get to show it off a little bit, but I do like that it is poetic that he's the one that ends up taking down Tavaroff. I wonder what the aftermath of that's going to be. I wonder if he's pseudo going to be the new Bane, or, you know, will they be able to just kind of like, I don't know. I'm curious how that ends up getting handled going forward. Whether he kind of gets stuck that way or not. But obviously, you know, Mary kind of tells Ryan that, you know, even without the suit, you're still Batwoman because you're you. Which I was like, yeah, this is one of those major cases of the suit doesn't make the bat, the person inside makes the bat. Because, like, I mean, it's like, it's not like the suits give you superpowers. Like, Luke gets a little souped up with his, but it's like like the bat suit doesn't give you super strength. It just amplifies what's already there for you. Like, so like you've proven time and time again you can handle your own, just as Ryan, because those skills as Batwoman are just, you know, she just has the confidence of the symbol. And I mean, granted, helps being bulletproof. That's pretty dope. But other than that, it's like, nah, you're you. Like, you're what made that symbol what it is now. So chasing after Cersei she's riding a bike and she's got the Batmobile, and it's like, I love just throwing everything at each other and just trying to be like, wow, she's actually really good on a bike. I wonder, is that actually because Cersei's really good on a bike, or is it just because of like the muscle memory of like Kate kicking in because Kate's really good on a bike? But eventually, I was almost thinking it would have been poetic. I don't think it is, but it's poetic in certain regards, but I thought it would be, because I was like, the moment they showed up at the bridge, I'm like, is this actually the bridge where everything started? But I'm like, I don't think it is. But I think it's meant to be symbolically in that regard. But Ryan and Cersei go toe to toe, and you know, it's, you know, it's okay to give up, Ryan. And she's like, I'm Batwoman, and kind of proceeds to get the upper hand. Luckily, Alice shows up and sprays her with the snake bite. Alice got too close. I was like, yeah, because Ryan knew to back away, but Alice got too close, and they both go off the edge into the water. Once again, very symbolic. And in that moment, she gets to meet with Ocean, and it's like, right, he died. It's like, right, she's like, you died because Tatiana caught you off guard planning a vacation for her? He's like, not a vacation, a new life. He's like, that feeling right now, like you're feeling, chase it again. Basically saying, don't run away from this feeling. Like, start feeling again. Like, you don't have to run away from it anymore. Like, I guess almost like if you found love once, you can do it again. You can hold on to these human emotions that you found after all this time. And obviously, it's sad because, like, you know, for Alice, it's like, Sophia did say that at the end of the day, I would have to choose between Kate and you. And it's like, because I couldn't choose, she made a choice for me, you know? And so she at least got her goodbye. That was what she was talking about with Ryan, which was kind of messed up because Ryan didn't get a goodbye with her mom. So you saying that kind of, I'm sure, rubbed her the wrong way. Mary didn't even get a goodbye with her mom, but it's like the person that she loves, she actually got a pseudo goodbye from him, you know? And in that exact moment, like, she's touching Cersei, and in that moment, like, you know, it's a rewritten memory of like Beth go opening the door and find, it was Kate opening the door and finding Beth. You know, that was the important thing in that moment. And they hug. It's like, you know, kind of just like Jacob wanting to be with, have both of his girls and everything being fine. And then the point was like, it's less dangerous than the injectable, but then that could lead to the chain of memories unlocking. That's such a suitable name now. Like, now that Kingdom Hearts made that such a great term, chain of memories, because it's so befitting, because one memory leads to another, and it branches out like a chain, you know? I'm sure maybe it already existed way before then, but I will always associate the term chain of memories with. I wonder, was that like a psychology thing before that? Regardless, like I said, it's just, I always associate it with Kingdom Hearts now, but regardless, Alice snaps out of it and grabs Kate, and in that moment, you know, her and Ryan are working together, and it's just to see her like devastated like that, you know, it's just like, please, like, don't leave me. And in that moment, finally, Kate comes back, and even first words out of her mouth, Beth, and she's just so happy. But the police show up and arrest her, you know. I wonder how they answered the whole, like, right, we found this lady with this bat thing on, like, don't worry about that. I guess they made sure to like cover that up pretty damn quickly. But Kate is back. It does make you wonder, I guess all that was Cersei is completely gone and nullified, or maybe, I don't think it's even in her subconscious anymore, because I think the moment Kate came back, like, it just basically took over her mind, and every bit of Cersei's subconsciousness disappeared. So obviously Luke and Kate and Mary catching up, you know. And I guess Kate had already let them know what she had planned. So they were like, right, what you're planning to do, you have me and Luke's full support. And she's like, thanks, you know. And it's just, I think it was nice, you know, for Mary to just like, yeah, it's good to see you again. And it's like, to have her sister back is like, you know, pretty dope. But there was even a conversation about Alice. And for that, it's like, she never felt like she could ever get Alice out of Beth out of Alice, but actually it took Alice getting Kate out of me. And it's like, I want my sister back, but at the end of the day, the only way things are ever going to be somewhat right again is if she has to want to be Beth again, and she kind of doesn't. Obviously, being Beth comes with a lot of trauma that she needs to deal with. That hasn't. It's easier being Alice than it is being Beth, you know. So, but you know, I think all of this is a good start. You know, her getting her humanity back, her becoming human, feeling again. I think. I don't know, considering the circumstances, she is locked up again, but maybe that's going to be to her benefit, maybe it's going to be to her detriment. Like, being in Arkham, I'm sure doesn't surrounded by a lot of villains, I'm sure that's kind of a dog-eat-dog world, so I'm sure that's not going to be the pleasant thing. I'm sure that's going to be even less reason to be Beth, because it's like, I need to be Alice so I can be strong again, but, you know, we'll see. But, also at the same time, you know, Ryan and, Kate had their conversation, and it's like, I love them both talking at the same time. It's like, oh, right. It's like, also, like, the Batmobile is like, I know, right? It's so dope. Just this moment of them kind of like officially meeting and getting to talk. And, you know, she first wants to thank Kate. It's like, because of that symbol, you know, she was able to kind of, it's all because of Kate, like what she did for this city being Batwoman, and also now what I was able to do was because of you. But for Kate, it's like, I wore that city to give hope back to this city. You wore it to survive. But the fact is, it's like, that symbol's not mine anymore. It's yours, Ryan. You're Batwoman. So I figured that'd be kind of the whole point. But I think that's also what Ryan needed to hear. She made it clear, like, she needed that from, like, to feel really worthy of the symbol, to get the person her predecessor, to acknowledge her. It's like, I think that was a necessary step for her, you know, so. Kate and Sophie meet up, though, but it's only to say goodbye. It's like, oh, right, our thing never works out. Like, our timing is always terrible. But it's like, she's like, I'm going to go visit my dad, but then I'm also going to go find Bruce. Well, she also said she was going to stop by National City. It's like, oh, you obviously got to step in to, you know, check in on your bestie, Kara, let her know, like, oh, yeah, like, all the wild stuff that's happened, you know? So I'm okay. You might have heard that I was dead, but it's like, no, I'm good. Maybe even hit her up to be like, yeah, there is a new Batwoman. I think you're going to like her, type of thing. I think a lot of that, like, I'm getting in my head and think it's pretty dope. But she wants to go look for Bruce. Because for her, it's like, I spent 11 years not, you know, with that regret of not being able to save Beth. And because of that, she became Alice. But now, like, I want to make up for that on some level by finding Bruce. Like, wherever he is, wherever he's trapped, whatever he's going through. I want to be there for him. Once again, we do have a Bruce Wayne cast in this canon, so what they decide to do with that going forward, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what they do. But obviously, it is a situation where Kate was like, the whole her and Sophie thing, it's like, honestly, in a different universe, there could have been us. Which I'm, like, this is getting, like, very, like, production-wise, behind the scenes. I wonder, is that because, you know, if Ruby had, you know, was still Batwoman, I wonder, you know, playing Kate, I wonder, would they have made it so that her and Sophie would have eventually got together and stayed together? Maybe that's kind of what that's supposed to, like a wink and nod, like maybe that was the plan of, like, eventually getting them together and staying together, you know? I mean, we've seen how relationships can kind of be for the superhero world, so, I mean, who knows? Maybe it was always going to play out this way. You never know how things would have played out. And maybe in another universe, if things worked out differently, maybe that could have been it. But, you know, maybe we both deserve a little easier. It's like, my complicated thing, new face, you know, everything going on with me. But, you know, and I think, you know, I figured this is going to be, I figured something related to Bruce. It's not what I thought the circumstances was going to be, but I kind of got a little close to how I figured Kate's story would be, how they wouldn't, like, kill her off, but, like, they'd exit her from the story. Granted, she's still out there in the universe, so she could always pop back up in some shape or form, especially if she ends up finding Bruce. But, you know, I think Sophie needs to be here, too, especially part of Team Batwoman. Well, I'm also curious, like, what she's going to do. Like, is she just going to be, like, a private eye or something like that? Like, I don't think Sophie's really worked out what she plans on doing. But it's like, well, whoever you find, I hope they can compete with this. And lays one more smackaroo, and I'm like, yeah, that's going to make leaving just a little bit harder, you know? So, but obviously Team Batwoman deciding, like, right, we're going to do everything we can. You know, it's like, now that the bat suit's repaired and, you know, moving forward with their plans, you know, to continue saving the city, Now she's got backup with Luke, which that's going to be pretty dope to see how that teamwork works like that. Because once again, the Bats have never had, like, except for the crossovers in this, like, Arrowverse and stuff like that. Other than that, Kate's never really had backup. Even Bruce never had backup. So it's nice to know, like, oh, once again, didn't know Batwing was a thing. I thought, like, I mean, to be fair, I only found out about Batwoman, like, upon the show. I was like, wait, Batwoman? I even made a video talking about I thought Batwoman and Batgirl were the same person. Not. You know, so I know that obviously there's different people who've taken up different men. I mean, to be fair, there's also, like, Orphan, who is, oh, God, I'm blanking on the character's name. She's in Birds of Prey, the little girl that steals from Black Mass. That character eventually becomes, she takes up the mantle of Batgirl, but then becomes our own hero known as Orphan. So, like, that's another extended member of the Bat family as well that I'm like, right, she's not, yeah, that's another thing. But once again, I didn't know about Batwoman, and now I do. So, same thing for Batwing now. But also Mary, they're going to build a community center on top of her clinic, because now it's legit. So now that can kind of work in conjunction with each other. So they're going to be attacking every aspect, the crime as well as the mental health and the care, as well as the, a place for the youth. Like all of that, like they're attacking every front of like making Gotham a better place. But then she has to go and visit Alice, which for her, it's like, this is what she wants. I was wondering whether she was going to tell Alice, I forgive you. It's like, no, that forgiveness ain't coming any sooner. And because I wanted it to be a thing almost like where Alice like willingly turned herself in just to prove that she had become a better person. I was like, nah, she's not willingly ever going to turn herself in. But it is a thing of Ryan Mao finally gets justice for her mom. It's also like, right, I never have to see you ever again, which I'm like, oh. But we're not done with Alice, because Alice is like, right, your adopted mom might be dead, but let's talk about bio mom. She didn't die giving birth to you, Rai. She's still very much alive, which that's a sting, because it's like, right, if my mom's alive, that means she never bothered finding me. Why that was, I don't know. I'm curious to find out, are they going to make it so that her mom is someone like significant, like, or is it just going to be like no, it just doesn't matter who her mom is, just the fact is of like, oh, the drama of like, right, your mom's still out there and she never came to find you after everything you had to go through, foster care and stuff like that. Granted, it led you to your adopted mom, but still, it's like, right, you were under the impression the entire time your mom died during childbirth. So also, like, the question, also another question too, like, what about the dad situation? Answers on that part. But also, they do set up, like, stuff for Season 3 with the fact that those items that Cersei was carrying are still out there. We see, like, the Mad Hatter's hat, the umbrella. I assumed it was penguins, but I could be mistaken. I assume because of the black and white color scheme, I mean, And then also, anyone could get their hands on it, but the final thing we see is Poison Ivy's plants kind of running rampant. So what that turns into, as well as like who else finds some of this stuff and starts utilizing it in Gotham, we'll ultimately have to wait and see. It's very much kind of like a Legends thing of like, oh yeah, there's aliens out and about in time now, or Encores or Mysteries. It's kind of like that to a certain extent. So I'm curious to ultimately see like how some of that gets utilized in the future. But specifically, what does that poison ivy plant thing turn into? Like, not quite sure how that will what that would necessarily manifest as, But like I said, we'll have to wait and see. Like I was saying, Batwoman has been renewed for a third season, so I am really interested to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us with a third season. I'm curious what role Alice is going to play in. I'm sure maybe she's just going to be like chatty from inside of Arkham. That's going to be interesting. Also, like I said, maybe we're going to get some classic villains in the form of new villains, in the sense of like people picking up some of those tools, like someone taking up the mantle of Mad Hatter. So maybe that's kind of what we'll see, or maybe they won't go that far. It's just like, oh, here's some random Joe Blow, like with the respective items, doing whatever they want to. Maybe it's someone specific hoarding all of them and using them to their advantage. I don't know. Also makes you wonder, are there just going to be any straight up other villains? What villains are they going to pull forward? We obviously got Black Mass this season, but like, who's next up on the roster, So stuff like that. I'm really excited to see what they have planned for season 3 and just where all these stories ultimately lead us, you know. Because there's also another thing too. I'm curious if that's still a plan. Like I have to look into it. I was curious because there was talk before the new seasons and everything that the next crossover was going to be a Superman and Lois and Batwoman crossover, and I'm curious if that's still happening. So I really quickly looked into it because I'd never looked into it previously. I kind of let that slip my mind. I was like, yeah, apparently with everything going on, that was canceled. Apparently there are no plans of any crossovers, which makes sense because that'd be like way more people on set. So I can understand that, which is kind of sad because I would have loved to have seen like what that crossover would have been like. Especially considering the current circumstances, you know, and everything. But, you know, I think there's still room for potentially in the future. But, you know, so at least where things currently stand with 2021. But, you know, yeah. And enough of my rambling. That's really all I want to talk about. Like I said, I'm excited to see where season 3 takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.